Gentlemen, good afternoon. Good afternoon. There it is. Would everyone mind taking their seat, please? If you could all start to move away from the doors and just take your seats, I'd be most grateful. Thank you for accommodating our change in the starting time for this session. We thought we would allow an extra 15 minutes for lunch with this morning overrunning. Delighted to now start this very interesting penultimate session of our conference here in Bournemouth. And I'd like to introduce to the podium to say a few words, if you would, your appreciation for our leader, Diane James.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again from my perspective to the conference this afternoon. In a few minutes, it's going to be my absolute pleasure to invite Douglas Carswell, UKIP's MP in the House of Commons, to address you. I, like many of you, yes, let's do that. I, like many of you, went to Clacton to support him. He took a very courageous decision to leave the Tories and to come to us. And I am not interested in what has gone on beforehand. I want you to give the most rapturous welcome, please, to Douglas Carswell, MP, UKIP MP. Many thanks.
Thank you for that warm introduction. The referendum victory on June the 23rd wasn't the Conservative Party's victory. It wasn't Labour's victory. It was our victory. It was your victory. It was UKIP's victory. We didn't just force them to hold a referendum. We helped win it. Looking around the hall, I see lots of familiar faces. People who I know helped run street stalls. People who went out there leafleting. People who didn't just do all of that during the referendum campaign, but people who I know did that for years. Thank you for what you did in the referendum and before. It wouldn't have happened without you. I also want to say well done to Diane, our new leader. Wasn't it wonderful listening to Diane speaking yesterday? You know, it takes a certain something for someone to offer themselves to lead not just a political party, but the third largest party in British politics today. So I salute all of the candidates who put themselves forward for the job. The membership has now spoken and made a clear choice. We must now all rally behind Diane. Diane, I give you 110% of my support. Well done. It's been a great year for our party. A few years ago, the experts in Westminster, they said we were never going to get a referendum. David Cameron and George Osborne were adamant it wouldn't happen. It did. The experts in Westminster said that the Leave side could never win. At times, it felt like the entire weight of the government machine was against us. Not just Downing Street, but the so-called expert economists, the central bankers, the corporate bankers, the lobbyists, the CBI. George Osborne had drawn up a long list of experts ready to tell us to come to heel. They formed a long line, or as Barack Obama put it, a queue, to tell us what to do. Project Fear said that the Premiership football would come to an end if we voted leave. It seems to me the season's starting even earlier this year. They said interest rates would go up. Instead, they've gone down. They said there would be a recession. Instead, we see new growth. They said the economy couldn't cope. I suspect that more jobs will have been created in Britain since June the 23rd than in the whole of the rest of the EU combined. We won despite having the system rigged against us. And UKIP can keep on winning despite having the system stacked against us. Nowhere is the system rigged more against us than it is in Westminster. Sitting on those green benches, I often find myself surrounded by 50-something Scottish nationalist MPs. 56 of them, I think. We got 3 times more votes than they got at the last election. And yet there are 50 of them. And only one UKIP MP. How can that be fair? The SNP and the Lib Dems get to ask questions at Prime Minister's question time. I'm sometimes lucky if I get called to speak at all. We got more votes than the Lib Dems, than Plaid Cymru, the Ulster Unionists, and the Green Party combined. I know how unfair our political system in this country really is. I sit next to it every day. We urgently need electoral reform. We need to make those in Parliament more accountable to their constituents. In Suffolk, the neighbouring county for us North Essex folk, people voted overwhelmingly to leave the EU. Yet every single Suffolk MP supported Remain. Across the country, only a tiny handful of principled, patriotic, and frankly in many cases wonderful Labour MPs supported Leave. The rest, the overwhelming majority of them, voted Remain. Michael Gove famously once described the education establishment in this country as being the blob. I tell you, the real blob in Britain is sitting in the House of Commons. That's where the groupthink is to be found. And it's groupthink that's been running this country for too many years and running it into the ground. We're beating the group thinkers on Europe and on immigration. My job in Parliament is to offer an alternative voice where the blob has got it wrong. We need an alternative to those in Westminster who all agree that billions of pounds of overseas aid should be spent as a government-to-government subsidy. We need an alternative to the coalition of the comfortable who can't see what's wrong with cutting benefits from ordinary people while they increase handouts to the banks. Quantitative easing is a fancy way of saying benefit handouts for corporate bankers. We need to press the government on the timing of Article 52. There will be many vested interests trying to stall the process. UKIP needs to be pushing to make sure they get on with it. I'm going to be working and continuing to work with Mark Reckless and others in the House of Commons. We've been producing policy papers setting out a whole range of radical alternative ideas on everything from energy policy to breaking open the cartels that surround the family courts. UKIP needs to be the party for change. We should be the party that people vote for if they want change. Upbeat, optimistic change for a better, brighter future. It's an enormous honour to to call myself a member of this great party. I'm looking forward to working with Diane and with Team UKIP. Thank you.